I want to say peace and blessings to everyone. I know this is one of my rare live videos that I would do during the day, especially from my car on YouTube. But I just want to take a moment to talk about the topic, the title of this video. I'm very disappointed at some of the things that I saw from, for example, so-called leaders that have an influence on our community, and how many of them are undercutting or attempting to undercut Kwame Brown. For some of you guys that may not know and understand the situation with Kwame Brown was drafted by Michael Jordan, I want to say almost 20 years ago, right? Number one draft pick, fresh out of high school. And matter of fact, let me clean this lens up real quick. There we go. All right, fresh out of high school, number one draft pick. And he had to deal with a lot of scrutiny because according to what was expected of a number one draft pick, many felt as if he did not live up to expectations. So Kwame Brown had to deal with a lot of scrutiny. He had to deal with that label of being a bust. Very harsh label of being a bust. For 20 years, he remained quiet, remained silent. He was in the NBA for 13 years. 13 years, but yet he had to deal with the label of a bust. He accumulated almost $70 million. And that's not even counting almost $30 million in endorsements, but just off of his play alone. But the totality of it, $100 million. But he got labeled a bust, right? From someone that supposedly is for our community. Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith built his entire career off of bashing Kwame Brown. He actually went on college tours using Kwame Brown as the butt end of his joke. You know, I've seen some of it. It was bad. It was bad. It wasn't good. But here you have someone that earned almost $100 million off of his talent, off of his gift, and yet he's labeled a bust. He's been out of the league since 2013. And I saw recently how Stephen A. Smith on ESPN labeled him as the top of his list as being a bust. But he was in the league for 13 years. Even Jalen Rose defended with Stephen A. Went against Stephen A. Smith. What's the other guy from? He has his own show with Shannon Sharp. Can't think of his name off the top right now. But Jalen Rose even corrected him on using that term for Kwame Brown. Also using a name for Chris Bosh, who was averaging a double-double. Referring to Chris Bosh as Bosh Spice. But in the end results, Jalen Rose he was removed from television for a while. Skip Bayless, that's his name. So Kwame Brown been out of the league for almost 20 years. Never said anything to anyone. Kevin, or what's his name? Matt Barnes and Stephen A. Jackson. Stephen Jackson, rather, not Stephen A. Jackson, but Stephen Jackson. And their All the Smoke podcast with Jeannie Buss decided to make him as the butt end of the joke. Jeannie Buss was sharing her thoughts on elaborating on the key trade that they made to get Paul Gasol to the Lakers. And as she began to give the names, Matt Barnes interrupts her, taps her, and taps Stephen Jackson, and basically insults the man. Basically states that, you know, she got Paul Gasol for nothing, and insisted on her not mentioning his name. You see the disrespect? Totally disrespectful. So they disrespected this man, and I want you to understand, Stephen Jackson was a former teammate of Kwame Brown. So you see all kinds of rules and protocols are being broken, right? So fast forward, they do this video. And mind you, this is the same Stephen Jackson that was crying on camera about the situation with George Floyd, because George Floyd was a good friend of his who made comments about Black Lives Matter, but yet they insult this man. So these guys built up their platforms disrespecting this man. As far as Stephen A. Smith, I'm not saying that Stephen Jackson and Matt Barnes did that. So Kwame Brown did not like it because, number one, he's been out of the league, and why would they disrespect him like that? They had no clue about the trade. So, of course, he fired back. Gave him opportunities to apologize. Of course, they didn't do that. You know, called him out, which rightfully so. You know, in the midst of that, right, the only person that had some sense was Gilbert Arenas. Gilbert Arenas was like, hey, you know what? I'm not messing with this man. I've seen what this man can do. This man he's a quiet giant. You've seen this man and his brother knock out 20 security guards with more being sent, knocked them out, handled them. So he backed away from that whole narrative, the whole conversation, apologized offline. But instead, Stephen Jackson and Matt Barnes decided that they wanted to swallow their pride and continue to run with this narrative, right? Mocking the man. And he's like, hey, why did you have to bring me up in your conversation? You're entitled to talk about his game, but why would you put this label on him? And that's what Jalen Rose years ago challenged Stephen A. Smith with. And Stephen A. Smith loud talked him. So make a long story short, Kwame Brown defending himself towards these guys, telling them to be men. You know, just really. So in the end results, Joe Hill decides that she wants to jump in and throw around a joke of Kwame Brown being this angry, you know, violent guy, you know, joking around like, oh, let me check my old videos to see if I said anything about Kwame Brown, trying to jump in it as they try to paint this narrative that he's this sad, disruptive, this sad, disturbed, this sad, depressed first round draft pick who made $100 million off his talents and put a roof over his mother's head, right? But he's depressed. Man that didn't bother anyone, minding his own business, out of the league, and you still making him the butt end of the joke. Well, he defended himself, rightfully so. And what happened? Charlemagne the God decided that he wants to jump in. right? And how did he jump in? He brings up Kwame Brown's past. He brings up, think about the playbook, guys. He brings up his past of his father and also his brother, which he lied about, saying that his brother was in jail for killing someone, whatever. And his brother's not in jail. But just threw shade and shared a past about his father that he didn't even know. Kwame Brown had to learn about that while Charlemagne the God was putting his stuff out there. Well, guess what? Kwame Brown called his past out. Rightfully so. Like, wait a minute, you're going to talk about my father, right? You're going to talk about my brother. You're going to talk about my family. But this has nothing, that has nothing to do with me. But he wanted to paint this, what, angry man, this psychopath narrative. So make a long story short, Kwame Brown put Charlemagne the God information out there. We all know Charlemagne does a lot of questionable stuff, homophobic stuff that if you did it at your workplace, you'll be fired over, right? We've seen him do stuff, and I've presented that to our assembly. Like, what in the world is this guy? And just talking to the assembly about his behaviors. Well, what did he pull up in his past? Well, Charlemagne the God took a plea, pled guilty to a lesser charge, right? Of dealing with a situation of a rape of a minor, a 15-year-old girl. He was 22, the girl was 15, right? 15-year-old girl, drugged her, what they call a Spanish fly or whatever, drugged her and raped her. But he pled guilty to a lesser charge, right? The lesser charge was basically the delinquency of a minor. But when you look at the case, it was because of having intercourse with a 15-year-old girl. He also stated that you can look it up for yourself, that he raped his own wife. But nevertheless, he puts this man business out there. So now Kwame Brown fires back and went in on him. So what did he do? Charlemagne the God had his lawyer serve Kwame Brown on a cease and desist. In other words, don't talk about the case anymore, right? So what did Kwame Brown do? Fired right back. Notice this. He put all of Kwame Brown's business out there, but then got mad because Kwame Brown put his business out there of what he's actually done and had to pled to a lesser charge too. But yet Kwame Brown is labeled as the angry person. But it didn't stop there, right? So we already know Charlemagne the God issued an apology, which was a lame apology, right? He issued a lame apology. That was wrong. The damage was already done, right? He already put it out there, right? Buddy up. He's buddy with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. Buddy with them. But defending his friends went at Kwame Brown. And rightfully so. If I was in his position, I would have rejected that apology as well. So what happened? What happened? Now we have Dr. Watson, very respectful guy, does a lot of talking and discussing and do lectures about financial things that we need to do as a people. We call a lot of stuff out, right? I'm telling you guys, this tells you just how sad and how sick our community as a whole is, right? Dr. Watson, Watkins, you'll see him with, and I love listening to his lectures, some of his old lectures as far as Dr. Claude Anderson. I encourage you guys, look up Dr. Claude Anderson and listen to his lectures. I'm pulling up to my house, right? Listen to his lectures. He did a lecture called Inappropriate Behavior. And what you see on display here is what is called inappropriate behavior. I'm backing up here. Inappropriate behavior, right? In that lesson, that lecture, he taught in a church about inappropriate behavior. I mean, to a massive amount of people. He gave a history about the history of us undermining each other as a people. He talks about and taught on meritorious manumission. He does teachings about paranomics. In other words, teach well. He and Dr. Watkins are really good friends, and Claude Anderson, Dr. Anderson had nothing to do with this discussion, right? So I want to make that clear. So in a nutshell, I saw a video, right? Because, I follow some of the things that what he says. He says a lot of things, right? Promoting us to start investing our money, using our resources strategically. Well, what disappointed me was when I listened to what he had to say about the Kwame situation, Kwame Brown situation, our brother. It was sad. I'm going to say it straight up. It was sad. It was disappointing. He contradicted his own self, right? He starts off with painting the picture of what transpired. He makes a point of saying he's concerned about how Kwame Brown, they may take his channel down. Nobody's talking about taking his channel down, but they're concerned about them taking his channel down. He's concerned about, even made a few jabs about saying how Kwame Brown is, doing the playbook of what's that guy named Kevin Samuels, getting caught up in the hoopla and trying to basically using this the attention to build up himself. And some of the other people like Stephen Jackson and what's his name? Matt Barnes, they, do the tough guy thing, or, that's why they call it all the smoke, because they're supposed to be tough guys, right? So in a nutshell, all of them buddy. And Kwame Brown called this out that this was going to happen. Didn't know it was going to happen in this manner, right? Right. But what ended up happening? Dr. Watkins expressed his concerns, began to bring up the playbook on how to take down Kwame Brown's channel. Then makes it clear, saying he don't have any animosity. He understands. He watches videos, but then he reveals that, guess what? He's buddy with Charlemagne the God. That they good friends. But you're gonna disrespect another man because of your friend. And I respect this. I respect Dr. Watkins. Learn some things on financial, financial investments. I learned some things from him. But you're going to protect someone who pleaded to a lesser charge for the delinquency of a minor, a 15-year-old. You're gonna take that side. The question we should be asking is, Bill Cosby is locked up for drugging someone, right? Allegedly drugging someone and having intercourse with them. The same things that Charlemagne the God pled guilty to, right? A lesser charge. And yet he's out. He's free. He's doing certain things on television that if we did it in our workplace, we would be fired. Bill Cosby, right? When you look at that whole situation, even the main accuser that he settled with, many don't know that she was actually someone that he was seeing on the side. They had an affair for 2 years. And I'm not saying that it's okay, and I'm not defending Bill Cosby, but he had an affair with this woman for a couple of years. Even after that whole accusation, they had a relationship for a couple of years. Even the mother of the woman put it on blast. Right? If you follow that case, the woman that from the American top model, she made accusations against Bill Cosby, and it came out and it found out that it was false, right? And not getting into all of that, but Bill Cosby is going to spend the remainder of his life incarcerated. He's going to die in the penitentiary, right? But then you have Charlemagne the God on television, didn't do any time, doing questionable behaviors, having images on the in the background of a man being penetrated by another man, things like that, throwing sex toys and things like that on the air. Now, if you did that at your workplace, what would happen? You'll be fired for sexual harassment. But yet he's able to work. He's able to stay in place. And Dr. Watson made it clear that they are good friends. Said that Stephen Jackson reached out to him, but he doesn't know what he's reaching out to him, why he's calling him for, what he can interject but you injected yourself into the discussion. What was sad is listening to Kwame Brown's expression, because it seemed like the playbook is all those that should have protected this man are the very ones that's continuously preying on him. Stephen A. Smith, you was a grown man. He was 18 years old. Instead of you guys pulling him aside, if you feel like he's not living up to potential, help this man, or at the time, young man. This man is not a failure. What did he do? He put a roof over his mother's head. He took care of his family, but he's labeled a bust. I respect Jalen Rose. He defended Kwame Brown. He defended these guys. But nevertheless, take it a step further. Matt Barnes, right? Matt Barnes, his so-called apology. These are supposed to be tough guys, but these are supposed to be the guys that speaking out on Black Lives Matter. They're the ones talking violence. But Matt Barnes made a comment, and his so-called apology started out by saying Kwame Brown has his private part, Matt Barnes' private part in his mouth. And then you go into saying that this man is sad. Well, wait a minute. That's supposed to be an apology? If you said that at your job towards a coworker, saying that your coworker has your private part inside their mouth, guess what? You will be fired. And you can have some charges presented to you. But yet, he's still working at ESPN. He still have a job. He still have sponsors with the Up and Smoke. See, they're all buddy. Going back to Dr. Claude Anderson's inappropriate behavior, meritorious manumission, giving a select few sources to undermine an insurrection. Guys, share this video. I don't have a problem with this video being shared, but I do have a problem with the whole situation. Kwame Brown made it clear, and I could feel his pain, because he said, "Doctor, if you had any concerns, you could have reached out to him directly. You're an elder." He made it clear you're supposed to be his elder. In other words, within the community, you could have easily sent him an email. You could have easily reached out to him offline and given them some pointers or what to do or what not to do, or, hey, be careful. You may want to articulate yourself this way or that way. But instead, you do what? Give a playbook of potentially have his channel shut down. The same ones like Charlemagne the God, Stephen Jackson, all these guys tried to say that Kwame Brown is clout chasing. How can a man clout chase his own name? This man minding his business. How can a man who retired from the NBA, got his own business, clout chase his own name? Let me share a little bit more about Stephen A. Smith. I was going to upload the video. He's on CNN yesterday or the day before, talking to, what's his name, Lemon or whatever, the anchor from CNN, talking to him about his issue with LeBron James not telling the people whether or not he took the vaccine. Something's wrong with this picture, guys. He's literally challenging LeBron, saying LeBron should tell the people whether or not he took the vaccine. That's none of your business. Notice who's leading the way. It was Stephen A. Smith that led the way with the narrative about Kwame Brown. About 2 weeks ago, he said that Kyrie Irving should retire. He went in on Kevin Durant. This guy has been purposely going at our own community. He literally allowed Max Kellerman to insult our community about even the term Semitic, saying that, hey, any black person basically that says that they are Shemitic, that is low, what do you say, low something, low, basically saying it's garbage, right? Low something information. But this is supposed to be a man who should be a leader within the community. So can you imagine yourself being in Kwame Brown's shoes? He said his own daughter came to him and asking him about, was he a bust? He has to explain that to his daughter. She has no clue about sports. And this is where he came up with that term, my mama's son. Because his mother had to endure his own son, this person who accomplished something that no one, that's a rarity, his son being humiliated, being embarrassed. Many times, he had to go and talk to his moms a number of times, but mama is telling him, hey, you know what? Don't stoop to their level. Just hold back. Don't go there with them. Mama giving them that wisdom. Mama keeping them in that place of not stooping to that level of where they are. Because, guys like that, they want to bring you into the dirt, their dirt. But yet and still, this man not bothering anyone. He has to explain to his children about that. Now, many will point out, hey, he's using the N word. He's using this. Guys, come on now. Come on now. Your children listening to music with all kinds of crazy stuff. Man, some of the stuff that's out there right now, and you guys don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with it. But our children listen to music that is just completely perverted. But yet this man right here, Kwame Brown, minding his own business. Man, he's a success story contrary to what anyone wants to say about him. You can't be a bust being in the league for 13 years. There were other players that had a lesser impact, lower stats that didn't last half his length, half the length of time that he's lasted in the league, that were number one picks. No one's bringing their name up. I'm not going to name any names because I don't want to contribute to that. But where I'm going at with this is the Playbook family. We're still dealing with the same playbook. Look at the stuff that we're dealing with as a people. Listen, look at this stuff. These are supposed to be leaders. These are supposed to be leaders that's supposed to be pulling aside the young men and saying, hey, don't do this, don't do that. Hey, you may want to. But this guy defending, he said his friend, who a parent entrusted their daughter to be around this guy, he betrayed their trust, drugged their daughter, and sleep with her. This same person that says that he rapes his own wife. He made it clear. You can look it up. I'm not making this up. And if you want, I'll just put allegedly. If that's supposed to be the political way, I'll just say allegedly. No, but I've seen the documentation. So think about this, guys. Meritorious manumission. What is that? That's where basically the plantation owners, what they did was they came up with a plan to try to, undo, to sabotage any type of insurrections, right? So they offered this reward if any one of our brothers or sisters tell them about a potential insurrection, right? So what's the cost? Everyone that's part of that insurrection killed, murdered, but that person who tattled, who ratted on them, let free, escape, let go, get benefits, become a free slave because he protected the system. He protected the abuser. Doesn't that sound familiar? That's what religion has done to our community. Religion has caused us to protect the perpetrator and demonize the victim. The same system of religion, whether it's Christianity, whether it's Catholicism, it's still the same. Judaism, what they have taught our community is embrace a Messiah that does not look like you. We're the only community that the Messiah is not a reflection of our community. Our Messiah looks like the very people that have committed these heinous crimes on. But yet, at the same time, these are the people that we're still allowing to teach us about what love is, teach us about what redemption is, teach us about what salvation is. They put an image, they put their image, and then took our identity, now teaching it, pushing it back on you and I, and saying that, hey, love your enemies. Oh my gosh. You see the spin, you see why we're so lost as a people. This is contradictory behavior. That's not biblical. Christianity, Catholicism, Judaism, Islam all teach a different Messiah, and that Messiah is not a reflection of our community. The Messiah that they teach, and I want to make it clear, I believe in the Messiah of the scriptures, the Messiah that's blood descendants from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I believe in that Messiah who taught the law, statutes, and commandments, that Messiah who taught out of the law and the prophets, that Messiah that said, think not I come to destroy the law or the prophets, that Messiah who taught about Exodus chapter 21, verse 16. That particular law tells you the penalty of anyone that kidnaps another man and sells them, kidnaps them, and whether they sell them or not, that warrants death. I believe in that Messiah. I don't believe in this Messiah that they've been teaching. I don't believe in this Messiah that they put in front of our ancestors and forced us to worship that ancestor. I mean, that Messiah and embrace that Messiah. We still see the results of that playbook taking place right now. My mama's son. In other words, we all somebody's son. We all someone's daughter. And you disrespected someone's son. You disrespected someone's daughter. That's what he means by that. Let me tell you how bad this media is. Clutch Point. I think that's the name of Clutch Point or Clutch Sports or whatever. I saw an article earlier, and they call themselves, this Caucasian, I can't remember the guy's name, call himself chiming in, interjecting his 2 cents on it, and used the term savage, said that Kwame Brown gave a savage response to Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes. Savage. Well, why would this person use the term savage? Savage. I made a post. I responded. I gave him a thorough rebuke. And guess what? I'm going to contact the editors. I'm going to contact that company and make it clear that he was out of line for using savage. Well, what does savage? It still pushes the angry black man stereotype that's out there that they're trying to paint Kwame Brown as. The angry black man. So he used the term savage. Savage is interchangeable with animalistic, right? Our people were referred to as savages, barbarians, beast. Those are some of the bywords that we were referred to when you really do the history. And when you understand the Willie Lynch letter, right? The Willie Lynch letter, you'll see the term uncivilized. Uncivilized was used for that person, that man, that woman who did not want to what? Embrace this system, who bucked the system. He went against the system. That civilized person was the one that embraced the system. That's what that term civilized means. And when you look up, for example, the Negro a beast, you know, there was a lot of theologies, a lot of publications from the church. When I say church, I'm dealing with Catholicism and Christianity. spewing the stuff that we are beasts. They teach this nonsense that we were created on the fifth day. The fifth day, that's where the beasts were created. Man was created on the sixth day. That's where you get the number 666, right? The six ties into the day man was created according to the scriptures. And then 666 represents the system of this man. So what we see is the system of this man. And so the system of this man, we have those, a few within the system that's promoting and protecting this very oppressor, this, how can I put it, this perpetrator. That's meritorious manumission that Dr. Claude Anderson taught thoroughly, powerful lesson. So in this article, they used the term savage to describe Kwame Brown's response. See, guys, we have to pay attention to what's going on. We got to wake up, family. It's deeper, it's bigger than what we can ever imagine. Because guess what? That's the playbook. That's the playbook that is being used on Kwame Brown. That's the playbook that is still being used on our community. That's a fact. Think about all the scrutiny that we've been subjected to. Can't debunk you, but what they have to do is make it ugly. They got to paint this picture. They got to muddy the waters so that way no one will listen to you. See what they want to do with Kwame Brown. They know that this man literally broke the internet. He went from, when I first came across the situation, he had about 15 subscribers. Now he's pushing almost 300,000 subscribers. This man has almost 35,000 people watching him live every time he goes, the minimum of 25,000. You have news outlets that's not having that type of impact. And what does this man do? What does this man do? What does this man do? He tells everyone, hey, if you want to use this video, use his videos. Make whatever money you want to make off his videos. He said he don't care about that. But don't abuse his videos. He's not receiving a single dime. He made it clear. Whatever you send to him in a super chat, he's taking that and he's going to continue to give it out. Give that money to purchasing shoes and stuff for children within our community that's not privileged, that don't have. He said, let's talk about those things. Here's a man who owned his property. He's getting laughed at by Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes because he's driving a pickup truck. But he's driving that pickup truck as part of his own business. He's driving that pickup truck with a what you call it, whatever they call it. I'm not good with the heavy machinery, but he got his heavy machinery that he's pulling. He's teaching his son the business. He got a business. So by them bashing him, calling him a bust, they're affecting his money outside there. Outside, he's retired. They're affecting his money and the heritage he's passing down. That's what he made a comment. And Kwame Brown makes it clear that he's Geechee. He's Geechee. What does that have to do with anything? Gullah. The term Gullah, Geechee. Gullah. The Hebrew word, the primitive root word is Galah, which means revelation. It means reveal. Not just redemption, but revelation. It means reveal. Gullah, Galah, the origins of the word of the song Kumbaya, which is what? A song, right, that was sang by this community. And guess what? That community is not just Kwame Brown. That is you and I. We are connected to this community that is referred to as the Gullah Geechees. But there was this specific term placed over them because of what you call the Gullah Wars that took place down in Florida. I call it Spanish Florida. Look up the history. That war lasted longer than any war. If you really want to understand the true Emancipation Proclamation, start with understanding the Gullah Wars. We're going to do a lesson on that. I'm going to do a lesson on that. Matter of fact, I'm going to do that tomorrow. Tomorrow night, I'm going to do a full lesson on the Gullah Wars. Make sure you understand why They want to make sure that part of the history you don't know, you don't understand. But back to my point, very disappointed, very disappointed with what's taking place with when I listened to Dr. Watkins' response towards Kwame Brown. Kwame Brown expressed it as well. He said, "You're an elder. If you would have called him and talked to him," but Dr. Watkins made it clear that he's buddy with Charlemagne the God. Guys, don't allow Kwame Brown to get swift voted. Don't allow this to happen to our brother. And I am a pastor. I am a leader, right? And I'm saying this to you. This is truth talk right here. Again, the fear of the what Messiah? The fear of the what Messiah? That movie that just came out. Fear of the what? Black Messiah? COINTELPRO? The fear is the fact that they understood what the true tense of what a Messiah is, the true understanding of what a Messiah is. The Messiah, every time Israel got into trouble, the Most High always raised up a deliverer from within the community. We've been taught and anticipating on the deliverer to come from outside our community. We looking at the different politicians who's not even part of our community to be a type of Christ, a type of Messiah for our community. Guess what? The solution starts from within our community, not outside our community. Moderators, if anyone in here trolling, just block them, delete them. We don't have time for all of that. So this is the playbook. Kwame Brown is dealing with the playbook that's for our entire community. Every time you have a leader that rises up, man, when you study, I'm not going to get into it. I'm going to say that for tomorrow. But I can say this. This is part of the playbook. If you cannot debunk them of what they say, then muddy the water. Make the water, just muddy the water, make it ugly so that way no one else wants to hear what they have to say. See, what they're trying to do with Kwame Brown, they're trying to muddy the water so no one else wants to hear what he has to say, even though he's saying the truth. But hey, you know what? Let's muddy it up so that way no one else wants to listen to what he has to say. That's a fact. That is the playbook. Matter of fact, that was COINTELPRO, who worked with the Catholic Church of Philadelphia, right, of Pennsylvania, right, to come up with brochures to put out to the public to help undermine the civil rights movement, to undermine what Malcolm X was doing, to undermine what the Black Panthers was doing, trying to do things for our community. They came up with a propaganda machine to help try to undermine it, take the narrative to using terms like communist. Why? Because at that time they were dealing with the Cold War. So they wanted to put the communist label on all those that was standing up, saying enough is enough. We're not going to let you do this to our community. So they came up with the term communist. They called Martin Luther King a communist. They called Malcolm X a communist. They called the Black Panthers a communist, right? To spark fear, to make people not want to what? Go near them. They couldn't stop them, but not go near them. But look at what happened. Look at what happened in the end. See, these guys don't even know what communist. What is communist? Being a communist. What is communism? Communism is where the government controls every aspect, right? That's communism. The government tells you what you're going to be out of life. The government is going to tell you what job you're going to be, what school you're going to be. That's communism, right? That's what communism is, right? But nevertheless, not getting into all of that. We're going to do a lesson on that, but we'll deal with that. We'll deal with that, but I'm not going to get sidetracked with the narrative. So again, guys, communism, that's what they wanted to push, that narrative. Why? Because people were afraid of Russia at that time. You know, when you start understanding the standoff between Russia and the United States at Cuba, because of Russia sending nuclear weapons and sending military arsenal to to Cuba. So there was a standoff. So that's why they call it the Cold War, because there was a fear between that there was going to be a nuclear war at that time. But nevertheless, right? Not getting into all of that, but I want to take it right back to where we need to be at. All right. And that's, matter of fact, all right. So I'm adding some of you guys to the moderation so that way you can knock down some of these trolls that are coming up in here. See, think about this, guys. Normally my lives, normally my lives, about 200 people. But here we have almost 1,000 people. So that tells you that this is a serious issue. This tells you that, the algorithms are bringing trolls to this simple chat. The algorithms, programs, conditional statements. Anyway, so family, I just want to take the time out and I want to encourage you guys. Get rid of, if unsubscribe from all these people, unsubscribe from the Breakfast Club. Let your voice be heard. Unsubscribe yourself from Dr. Watkins. Unsubscribe yourself from the, what they call it, the smoke or whatever you want to call it. That Stephen Jackson and all these guys. Unsubscribe from that. Unsubscribe from Stephen A. Smith. Unsubscribe from all of these guys. We don't need to be part of, have people that's going to hurt us versus help us. Just go right down the list. Unsubscribe, these people. Unsubscribe from these people. And anyone that is teaching or exhibiting contradictory behavior, as Dr. Claude Anderson pointed out, unsubscribe from them. Again, there's no coincidence that there's almost 1,000 people here where normally it's less than that. So with that being said, family, I'm going to go ahead and jump off here because my family is pulling up. And we'll do this again tomorrow night at 10 o'clock tomorrow night. Shalom.